So as you can probably tell, we're in the process of moving. So there's all kinds of big boxes and little just stuff all over the place, right? But among big boxes, including these big boxes when we're talking gaming, every once in a while you need a small box, a game that you can play quickly, a little bite-sized game, a game that might involve, you know, feeding something because you're hungry, or maybe you're not hungry, maybe the malevolent, ignorant force of a ancient creature that's an enemy of the elder things might be hungry. And you might very well need to feed that thing in order to not die. Because as we all know in all games and in life in general, dying is not necessarily a good thing. So what am I talking about? We're talking about a game today in the Cthulhu Mythos. That's right. Another one. But that's not a problem. As you've heard me talk before, here, and here. That's not a problem at all. In fact, we love those kind of games. But the question is, this little game, this little bite-sized game, does it pack enough punch to make it worth your time? Let's take a look at Feed the Shoggoth. I probably should have told you the name. That's my fault. Feed the Shoggoth. Right now. Quick history lesson. There's about infinite feeling games in this Cthulhu Mythos, right? This Lovecraft universe. But here's the thing. I just really wanted to do that to show how many there were. If you've played Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, Elder Sign, Mansions of Madness, Call of Cthulhu, Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, any of those games, Mythos Tales, Tides of Madness, all of these games feature some pretty prominent characters. And if you went right now and looked in a H.P. Lovecraft novella that shows, you know, or one of those collections of hundreds of tales, you would think, wow, these don't seem quite like the games I play. And they do. They introduce a lot of the characters, but everything you know that has come from the Lovecraft universe that you think of in these modern games comes from this right here, Call of Cthulhu, the RPG, made by Chaosium Inc. You say, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Well, over the years, the mythos has grown and grown and grown and grown and grown into where there are all these characters that you know, all these things that you know, these concepts you know, are mostly from the mythos, not from Lovecraft originally himself. Things like Chthonians, just so you know, weren't in the originals. Fun fact. Here's the deal there. We're taking a look today at a quick card game licensed by Chaosium. Why did you give us that history lesson? Here's why. Because Feed the Shoggoth by Squamous Studios, depending on which country you're from, has to do with this because it's licensed by Chaosium. You say, what does that mean? It means that this game, while small in box, is chock full of information. Let's talk about the game, talk about how it plays real quick, and we'll talk about what you can or can't like about this game and go from there. Again, everything's packed up, guys. No lighting. We're going guerrilla style. Let's look inside. So Badger from Squamous Studios was nice enough to give me a copy of this to review. Let's take a look at what it does. First of all, you have the Shoggoth himself. Look at him. He's mean, he's nasty, he's gelatinous, he's amorphous, he's a blob, right? He's angry, he's very, very, very hungry. The point is you're trying to feed this Shoggoth. So each person plays the game. You'll set it up like this. This goes in the middle. First graveyard goes there. Each person gets one of these great cult order cards. It kind of tells you your original player power. You'll notice something about this game though. You notice that none of these say cult number 1, cult 2, cult 3, cult 4. These are very much straight out of the mythos, which is the shining point of this game. Now I have some problems, but that's okay. We'll talk about what those are in a little bit, but I want to talk about the absolute high point of this game first. Every single one of these is named. Each one has its symbol taken straight from the mythos, whether from Lovecraft himself or the built-up mythos over the last 70 years. Everybody gets a hand of 7 cards. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. 3 different types of cards. Spells have the little book up top, minions here, and then artifact cards. And there's one more type of card. They're action cards. They have a little fist up there. I'll find one real quick just to show you what that symbol looks like. Here we go, right there, fist. So what you do is, on your turn, the Shoggoth is either in front of you or in front of someone else, typically based on the last movement thing, or if they were able to do a sacrifice to the Shoggoth. Here's what happens. You'll look at your cards. You'll say, okay, I have a minion. Their entire point is to sacrifice them. If you're playing with a 4-person game, you go to 4 points. So this one will give you 4. You say, I'm going to sacrifice a minion. Well, at this point, anyone has a chance to play cards to move the Shoggoth. If the Shoggoth is no longer in front of you, you can't sacrifice the minion to it. And that's what happens. Basically, if the minion is being held up to be sacrificed, imagine them tied to a stake in a horrible, horrible cage or something like that. They can't be affected by cards. So cast and discard and move the Shoggoth. So one other person says, well, no, I'm going to move it over a space, and maybe they want to put it in front of them. If you're playing the quick variant, even if it's not your turn, you still have to sacrifice if the Shoggoth is in front of you during somebody else's turn. So you would have to do it at that point. That's the quicker variant. Here's the deal though. Your minion, if that happens, your turn is effectively useless. You can draw back up to 7 cards and go from there. If you, say, get the Shoggoth in front of you, because when you do a successful sacrifice, it moves to the person to your left. If you do a successful sacrifice and it moves, and someone does it to you and it comes to you, and this is in front of you, you either have to sacrifice or you have to move it. If you don't, or you aren't able to do either of those things, you die. Player elimination. Now, here's some of the different cards. That's move it. These are the artifact cards. So these come out tapped. Excuse me. Used. Can't say tapped. It's a copyright thing probably. They come out 90 degrees like this. Next turn, you flip them and they're ready to go. And they can just be spent as actions you get down there. Also, for instance, the New World Ink, you're immune to the effect of cards that steal or destroy artifacts. So everybody's got their own player power. And that's the game. That's the gist of it. You play cards, you do take that, you do all this kind of stuff. But here's what I want to show you. Without me coming back in front of the camera yet, I just want to show you the absolute high point of this game. So some of these spells, Mind Blast, generic kind of art. Dude's got the yellow sign on there. But look at this. Curse of Shoggoth the Fawn. Blessed of Yig. Cloud Memory, Create Gate, Non-Euclidean Geometry, Reagent. All of these things, if you're a Lovecraft fan, are just odes to the mythos. Essential Saltus, Trapped in Carcosa, Duff's. Now, what these things don't do, they don't just say artifact, book. They're very specific. They all come from the mythos. And you very, very, very rarely see anything repeat. Even the action cards are very specific. Every single one of them's got a picture and something from the mythos. A little quote down here. Some of them are pretty funny. Some of them are like, okay. Grasp of Cthulhu, Rack. There's the Rack spell from the game, right? Every single one. I'm just going to keep flipping through this so you can see just how much thought and love of the Cthulhu mythos went, that's pretty funny, went into this, because you could have easily done this game in a much simpler way without having any of these kind of art cards or anything like that. But that's effectively the game. First person to the point cost wins. Let's talk about, should you play this game? Should you pass on this game? What about it? Full disclosure, the thing you're probably wondering the most is, Brian, do you really have that many sunglasses? No, I do not. This is merch for my show. You know what my day job is. I don't need to tell you again. I'm an illusionist, and this is merch. We sell these on our show. Anyway, this is our table for right now. Should you play this game? I want to tell you up front, I am not a Take That fan. I'm not a Take That fan. I'm not a player elimination fan. However, I am a massive Lovecraft fan. So there's always that niche. You always have those friends who want to play those quicker games, those Munchkins. Full disclosure, I don't like Munchkin at all. You say, Brian, some of this art looks a little cartoony. It does, but I think you need it because, good Lord, this theme is dark. You're sacrificing minions to the Shoggoth, but when you sacrifice this minion, you don't feel quite as bad than as if you sacrifice Jenny Barnes to the, to the Shoggoth. It's not quite as bad when you get this guy, and it's cute and it's done really well. But absolute high point of this game are just the cards and their love of the mythos. This is only half. There's a whole nother deck over there of these cards. Tons and tons and tons and tons of cards that give you a feel for the Lovecraft mythos. And if that's up your alley, this is the Take That game for you. To heck with Munchkin Cthulhu, you don't need it. This is faster, it's easier to learn, and it plays just way simpler than Munchkin. You don't have to kick in a door and try to find something, blah, blah, blah. This is definitely a Munchkin Cthulhu killer. It's a Munchkin killer for me anyway, because I don't really like Munchkin. Again, Take That games are not my style. You've seen what I've reviewed before, but I'm in love with the mythos. So would I recommend this game? If you like the sort of Take That fun style that those kind of games bring you, this is the one for you, because you get to kick all the rest of those out the door. Because let's face it, when someone drops out, hey, I got this brand new game, Munchkins, there's your first sign. You know you're in trouble when someone says Munchkins. Hey, I got this brand new game, Munchkins, to play. You guys want to play? And you go, right? But then you go, wait a minute, what about this game? And then you play it and you sacrifice a bunch of minions to the Shoggoth and you have fun. So that's my final thoughts on this game. If you are into the Take That, if you're into the player elimination, all that kind of stuff, this is really good for that. If that's not your style, then no, of course not. Play something else. But there's a large swath of gamers who enjoy a quick, fun game that is that player elimination, Take That stuff. So this, check it out. Squamma Studios, Badger's a good dude. I'm totally blanking on the name, I'm sorry. Feed the Shoggoth, that's an easy name to remember. And it's a cool theme. So, until next time, make sure to check us out. I'm Bryan Drake with the latest retro. And maybe we'll be in a new house next time that you see a video. We won't. I can tell you this is a nightmare process. We'll see ya.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool Stuff, in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.